Welcome back to understand what are the different types of ovulatory mechanisms till date known. Let me tell you one line, even though I will show the difference between the two types of ovulatory mechanisms, but now science is able to understand that spontaneous and induced ovulation has a connecting link. So when I will compare and write the mechanism, I'll try to focus on that point and you will try to understand that these are having some of the common pathways or common mechanisms. Let me draw those fine lines. What we understood? Ovulation occurs due to the master hormone known as LH. That means the secretion of LH is important and that will define the ovulation process. Depending on the LH release, these ovulatory mechanisms are classified into two types. This point is important. That is spontaneous ovulation, and second one is induced ovulation. These are the two mechanisms, and depending on this, the animals which shows induced ovulation are known as induced ovulators, and here these are known as spontaneous ovulators. We have to understand in a generalized question. Spontaneous ovulation means which occurs due to LHRH secretion followed by the LH secretion, and these LHRH secreted as a base point of GnRH because of the estrogen secreted from the graphene follicle or the matured follicle. Whereas, this point to be important, in induced ovulation, this mechanism doesn't operate. For this, there is a requirement of neuroendocrine stimulation. This mechanism is required. This neuroendocrine mechanism comes by the process of coitus or intromission. That means this coitus or the copulatory reflex, copulation, that will bring out this induced ovulation. Here what happens during the time of coitus, the genital, this point is important, somatosensory activating mechanisms which is initiated at the level of the genital organs will go via the spinal cord to the limbic system, to the arcuate nucleus, to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, to the median eminence, and thereafter this LH surge occurs. This LH surge now releases the hormone LH. That means without the process of this genital somatosensory mechanism, which is due to this coitus or intromission, the LH is not going to secrete it. And thereafter, by this mechanism or by this mechanism, when the LH is secreted, then they show the common mechanism of that what I said, follicular expansion, increase in the size, common mechanism. This is common. Follicular expansion, follicular contraction, and the final, that is follicular rupture. So these three phenomena will occur when this LH is secreted in the spontaneous ovulators or in the induced ovulators. But along with this, now see my red pen, this gives a new idea, a new concept which started beginning from 2014 by a group of independent scientists. That the name is OIF. It's a glycoprotein, that is ovulation inducing factor. This is now in the modern day, it is known as beta nerve growth factor. This is the factor which is present in the seminal plasma. So during the time of, see the red one, during the time of copulation, this comes inside the female body. And this protein is said to be, this ovulation inducing factor or the OIF is said to be the regulator of LH surge. So this is a mechanism which is now gaining importance. Not only the genital somatosensory activating mechanisms are important via the spinal cord to the median eminence of the hypothalamus, but this OIF also plays a critical role. Now, for example, in the induced ovulators, the rabbit, the ferret, they are coming under this category. But important for us, the camels, the llama, the alpaca, they are coming under this category. And domestic cat or the wild cat, they are also coming under this category of induced ovulation. But here on the spontaneous, we say human, cow, a buffalo, whatever you can say, buffalo, a goat, sheep, all these are coming under this category of spontaneous ovulation. So this shows the importance of or the difference of the LH surge mechanism and thereafter the LH signaling. That's the difference between these two mechanisms. But the complications come when this ovulatory inducing factor comes. In the Bactrianus camels, this was first discovered, and if you inject this into the blood, it also induces ovulation. It has been seen, it is species specific, this protein, and the same ovulation inducing factor will act in the same member or the same species. It is also seen in case of induced ovulators. If you extract the seminal plasma OIF, inject into the cattle, that means the cow, they also shows ovulation. So this clearly says that this OIF is now the point of focus. So here the ovulation has, in this spontaneous ovulation, it is mostly stress specific and it remains for a short duration. The half-life period of LH is quite more in this case. And here stimulation is not important, rather the circulating level of estrogen is more important. The size of the follicle, that is more, the larger the follicle, more is the stimulation that regulates. But here in this case, it is a short duration first of all, and here the half-life period of the LH is low. I can say that with the OIF, the stimulation is almost 1/2 to the coitus. So that means the coitus, that is the genital somatosensory activating mechanism, as well as this ovulation inducing factor of the seminal plasma, both stimulate the secretion of this LH. So with this particular lecture came to the end, where we understood that there are two types of ovulatory mechanisms are there and two types of ovulations are seen. The mechanism of ovulation is same in both the cases, that is expansion, contraction and rupture. However, the release of the LH is different. Here the LH remains for a long period of time because of follicular stimulated release of estrogen and stimulation of the central axis. But here the somatosensory signals are less lasting because coitus is over, and the presence of the ovulatory inducing factor plays a critical role in modulating or stimulating the LHRH signaling mechanism. So with this end, now let's understand how a dominant follicle looks like, what are the different cell layers present in a dominant follicle, and how this dominant follicle is undergoing the process of ovulation thereafter. Stay tuned for my next lecture on mature or dominant follicle.